All right, welcome everybody to the October 21st meeting of the Compliance and Amendments Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Why don't we get started with item 1?
On the call of the roll, Member Oka. Oka absent. Member Washburn.
Here.
Washburn present. Chair Hepner.
Present.
Hepner present. We have a quorum. Item number 2, adoption of the July 15, 2014 and August 19, 2014 Compliance and Amendments Committee minutes. Member Washburn has provided some minor clerical amendments to me to implement.
Great.
I'm sorry. I was going to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion. And if we can actually pass it without objection.
May we ask for public comment prior to approval?
Yes. Is there any public comment on item 2? Seeing no public comment, pass without objection.
Item number 3, I would like to call item number 3 and 4 at the same time. The complainants for both items have provided notice that they will not be appearing today. The matters are similar and they're against the same department.
Right.
File number 14062, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Jonathan Germain against Edgar Lopez, Paul Travis, and Frank Lee, Department of Public Works, for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21B, 67.24A and E, 67.25A, 67.26, and 67.27. Item number 4, file number 14069, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by David Eisenberg against Edgar Lopez, Paul Travis, and Frank Lee, Department of Public Works, for violating Administrative Code Section 67.21B, 67.24A and E, 67.25A, 67.26, and 67.27. The complainants for both items have provided emails in your packet stating that the Public Works has provided the documents that they requested, and they believe Public Works will comply to future requests. I did receive a copy of the documents via a CD disc, and
Okay.
I do not know if a representative from Public Works is here at this time.
All right. Well, start off these items by saying I'm very pleased to hear that progress has been made on these complaints. Since a member of the Department of Public Works is here, if I could just ask you a couple of questions. And this is just for the hopes of reaching finality on this and making sure that we're not missing anything. But I understand then that you've been notified that, similar to what we've received, that compliance has been achieved in this matter. Have you heard any follow-up on that?
Just the follow-up that you've heard as well, that they are satisfied with the CDs that they received and they're not appearing at today's hearing.
Okay, and is there any reason to believe that this might resurface or that compliance will not be completely achieved that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Okay, and open it up to the committee. Are there any other issues that we should consider?
I just wanted to refresh my memory about why we received these. So there was some, I guess the issue was whether or not this proposal should have been made public earlier than it was, and we thought that it should have been, our reading of the law. And so apparently it was determined after our order of determination that it should be made public that one of the criteria was met. So do I understand this correctly?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in the end, the complainants got what they wanted, but nonetheless, we felt that they should have gotten it earlier.
Mm-hmm. We, I believe, ended up sending them the information that they requested, prior to, we ended up sending them the CDs on September 17th, prior to the order of determination being issued on September 26th. But yeah, we, as soon as we heard that we were supposed to issue those documents, we did.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That ought to do. Thank you for your compliance.
May I have your name for the record, please?
My name is Jeremy Spitz. From the Department of Public Works. I'm standing in for Frank Lee, who's
How
out
do you
of
spell
the
your
office.
last name, please?
Spitz.
Thank you. I wouldn't have guessed that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling the next item on the agenda, item number 5.
Public comment?
Oh, is there public comment on, do we take public comment if there has been no motion or if compliance has been found?
We do sometimes. yeah.
Sure. Is there any public comment on item numbers 3 or 4? Seeing no public comment?
The matter is concluded due to lack of motion. Item number 5, file number 14048, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Cecilia Hairston Omandi against Donald Ellison and the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency for violating the Administrative Code Section 67.21B, 67.21E, and 67.29-7. The order of determination did state that we request that Mr. Ellison appear at the meeting today. However, he is ill and has been ill for the last week, and a representative from SFMTA is present to speak on his behalf.
Okay. And just to reiterate our procedure here at Compliance and Amendments, we're seeking follow-up on the order of determination that was previously issued in this matter. And while we're not here to re-adjudicate the underlying claims, we are interested in hearing to what extent follow-up has been made on the order of determination and to which we may be able to find compliance at this point. In the interest of determining whether, I noticed that we do not have any correspondence as we did in the last two matters from either party regarding whether further compliance has been made. So at this point, I'm interested in hearing first from the complainant what further efforts have been made to comply with our order of determination. And then I'll hear from the respondent. I'll notify that the violations that we found in the order of determination, we found 2 violations. One of those violations was a failure to bring a knowledgeable person on behalf of the SFMTA to speak to the issue. That I hope we can rectify today in spite of Mr. Ellison's absence. But more importantly, I believe, is the violation of 67.21 subsection B for failure to fully respond to the immediate request for documents. I'm more interested in that second request, hearing whether any further documentation has been provided, and if not, has any reason been provided for why further documentation has not been provided. So if the complainant, Ms. Omandi, Hairston Omandi, could speak to that.
Since the last time I was here, I have not received anything. And I can't remember what day we came the last time. But that's the reason why I was there the last time, because I hadn't received anything. And they sent Kathy Follis, which really couldn't answer the questions at all. And I'm still waiting to this day for the information that I have not received. And I think I'm being avoided the information. They're avoiding me not to give me the information that I requested.
Okay, and have you had any further communications with SFMTA or any representative in the SFMTA regarding the request, any follow-up on the request?
Since the last time I was in this room, no.
No communication whatsoever?
No.
Okay. Then it may be prudent to bring up the representative of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority at this point to understand why no further progress has been made on this order of determination. Is there a representative of the SFMTA present?
Yes.
And if you could identify yourself for our record.
Thank you. My name is Chris Iborra. I'm the Labor Relations Manager for SFMTA. I work under Don Ellison. He's my immediate supervisor.
Okay, and as a preliminary matter, the first violation that we found was a failure for the SFMTA to provide a knowledgeable person on behalf of this. Can you verify that you have knowledge of this complaint and of efforts to resolve the complaint?
The reason for me being here today was just to let you know that Mr. Ellison has been ill for the last week and is still continuing to be ill. We don't know when he's coming back. It's my understanding that Ms. Amandi has requested the same information like on 3 different occasions. She has been provided with every single item on her file, and the information that she's requesting doesn't exist.
Okay, and since the order of determination, Ms. Hairston-Omandi says that she's received no further communication from SFMTA. Has any explanation been provided to her that no further documents exist? And if not, why not?
I'm not aware. I haven't been in contact with her. As I said, I'm here just representing Mr. Ellison that he could not make it.
Okay. Do you know who in the SFMTA's office was responsible for responding to Ms. Hairston-Omandi's request?
I can only assume must be Miss Kathy Lewis.
Kathy Lewis?
I'm sorry. No, Kathy. Oh my God, I forgot the last name.
Ms. Fowlis?
Fowlis. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, and have you, has it been your obligation or has it been your task? Have you ever personally been tasked with responding to this complaint?
Not at all.
Okay, and is I'm sorry, the name of the SFMTA employee who was in charge of responding to this complaint? Her name is again
Kathy Fowlis.
Kathy Fowlis. And
Yes.
Is there a reason why Ms. Fowlis is not present today, to your knowledge?
Believe it or not, she's also sick.
Yeah, that's a striking coincidence. And have you communicated with Ms. Fowlis or Mr. Ellison regarding the status of the order of determination in this case?
I had a brief discussion with Mr. Ellison and today.
Okay.
And all he said was that we have no new information to provide. The information she's requesting doesn't exist.
Okay. Did Mr. Ellison provide you with any notification why there was no follow-up communication with Ms. Hairston-Omandi following the order of determination?
No, sir.
Okay. Did Ms. Fowlis provide any information to you, or did you ever discuss this matter with Ms. Fowlis?
I was just told at the last second that they were not going to be able to be here today. That's the reason I'm here. So,
Are they at work today?
no, they're not.
Okay. And has Ms. Fowlis informed you at all? I'm assuming the answer is no, but has Ms. Fowlis informed you at all as to whether she's made any attempt to communicate with Ms. Hairston-Omandi following the order of determination?
No, I haven't had any discussions with her.
Okay. So what I'm understanding then is that there has been absolutely no follow-up from the SFMTA regarding the order of determination that we made, finding that the SFMTA failed to produce further documentation to Ms. Hairston-Omandi. Now, if what I'm hearing is that no further documentation exists, Ms. Hairston-Omandi is entitled to an explanation as to why no further documentation exists. And I don't know why that communication has not been made, and I'm not hearing it from you. So do you have any further explanation as to why no communication was made with Ms. Hairston-Omandi and why we're here today with no ability to follow up whatsoever on our order of determination?
I'm sorry about that, but as I said, I was contacted at the last second, and I haven't had any conversations with Ms. Amandi, and I haven't been instructed to respond to Ms. Amandi.
Okay, that's very troubling to me. If I could ask Victor or Mr. Young, have you heard from the SFMTA any response or follow-up on the order of determination?
I have not received any follow-up responses.
Okay. So no further communication has been made by the SFMTA to Ms. Hairston Omandi, to the Sunshine Task Force, and you are unknowledgeable of any follow-up on the order of determination. I think this is a very serious matter, considering that we found 2 violations, and the SFMTA is appearing to completely disregard those violations of the Sunshine Ordinance. I think that's a very troubling matter.
Okay, I can give you my word that I can respond to her tomorrow morning as soon as I get back to the office.
Well, the trouble with that is that Ms. Hairston Omandi is here today. And we schedule these matters months out so that the SFMTA and other respondents can follow up and comply with orders of determination. We heard this matter. We issued the order of determination in this matter on September 4th, 2014. Is that correct, or Member Washburn?
That is the data that I sent it out.
That you sent it out, but in fact, the decision issued on August 6, 2014. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Were you made aware of this decision when it was issued on August 6, 2014?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you made aware of this on September 4th, 2014?
No, sir.
Okay. The frustration is building in me. I'm wondering if Member Washburn has any additional thoughts on this.
Well, I'm struck too that absolutely nothing has been done. When I was reviewing this matter in preparation yesterday, there was, I noticed that there was nothing in the file, and what I thought was going to happen today was that somebody from the SFMTA would appear with some answers, some information, and Roberta Boomer was the other person CC'd on this order of determination. So there were 3 people from the SFMTA who received this order of determination dated September 4th. And it's very detailed about what we wanted to have done, which was to meet with the complainant and go over her list of requests. And, item by item, we've given you this, or we don't have this, or you're not entitled to this. All of this was supposed to have been done. So apparently nothing was done. And you're just here.
I know.
This is nothing against you personally whatsoever.
No, I understand.
But this is disturbing. Pardon me?
As I said, I gave you my word. I can just, tomorrow morning, I can dedicate my whole morning and respond to her. I know it's kind of late, but I can give you my word. I can just put all the work aside and then respond. My apologies. That's all I can say.
I'm interested that you're now taking some modicum of personal responsibility for compliance with this order of determination.
I am.
And yet you were not CC'd on the order of determination. Have you been informed as to why Roberta Boomer is not able to be present today, as she was also CC'd on the order of determination?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know if Ms. Boomer is at work today?
No.
Okay. The part of this that's troubling to me is that this is our opportunity to reach conclusions, to close matters, and that could easily have been done by the SFMTA by supplying a written statement to Ms. Hairston Omandi that we've provided X, Y, and Z records, that we did not have any responsive records to X, Y, and Z, and that's all we needed to see today. That's all we need. I mean, the amount of work that goes into that is minimal compared to the effort that it takes for a representative of the SFMTA to be dragged before the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force again to re-adjudicate this complaint or to determine why compliance has not been made. It's stunning to me that this would be so soundly ignored. And I'm wondering if maybe there's a reason why this order of determination fell through the cracks or was somehow forgotten until earlier this morning. I mean, do you know if Mr. Ellison or any of the CC'd parties were planning to attend today?
I know Mr. Ellison wanted to be here, but he couldn't. And when I talked to him on the phone this afternoon, it sounded like he's on horrible, horrendous. He was extremely ill. It's my understanding that Mr. Monday came by looking for him, but he wasn't there, obviously.
Right, okay, but, and still that does not excuse why a communication could not have been made, even to the task force regarding, their inability to be present today.
Yeah.
I find that inadequate.
I gave him my word I can respond to.
I feel awful for the complainant who is here.
Yeah.
On, I believe the third occasion, trying to seek answers and finality as we are as to this complaint. So I'm not going to batter you any further, but I'm wondering how to treat this in light of the fact that we cannot find that compliance has been made. We cannot. I respect that tomorrow morning you're going to dedicate effort to responding to the order of determination. And do you have a copy of the order of determination? It's very specific as to what we're seeking. You see the decision and order on the second page there. Specifically, we request 1, statement as to how each of the requests or questions were addressed and what documents are provided. 2, a statement as to why a document, if any, was withheld. And 3, statement as to what documents do not exist. Ms. Hairston-Almonte deserves that response at this point, immediately. She deserved it a month ago, 2 months ago, so...
Right, the matter was heard over 2 months ago, and then the order of determination was issued early last month. There was ample time, and when this was calendared, when was the FTA notified? Because the order of determination said that this would be heard at a meeting date to be determined.
One moment, I'm just looking for my page number.
Okay.
Notice of hearing was sent out to all parties on October 7th, 2014.
Okay. So...
And it must have been effective, otherwise we wouldn't have a representative of the SFMTA here, so...
Yeah? So, you knew this was happening?
On October 7th. That's exactly 2 weeks ago. And how Member Washburn, having chaired this committee in the past, how do we proceed at this point? What are our options?
Well, when we don't find compliance, we send this back to the full task force. And the full task force can find that there's been a failure, willful failure in this case, to comply with the order of determination. So it'll be heard again, and if somebody knowledgeable doesn't appear at that hearing, then things get very much more worse for the MTA.
I think that that's appropriate, and I would implore SFMTA to respond to Ms. Hairston-Almonte immediately, but then provide justification in writing from Mr. Ellison, from Ms. Fowlis, from Boomer, from everybody CC'd on this at the SFMTA as to why compliance has not been made and why we should not find a willful violation at an upcoming task force meeting. I'm genuinely interested in why we should not find a willful violation. In my short experience, admittedly short experience on the task force, this is egregious. So I think that we cannot find compliance and move to have this and referred back to the full task force. And
to be heard as soon as possible.
Would you like that for the November 5th meeting or the December?
November 5th.
Okay, the motion is to refer this to the full task force for the November 5th meeting. I believe that is the motion.
And I don't know if I made the motion or if I'm the one seconding it. There's only two of us up here, but in any event,
I'll make the motion. You can.
I'll second the motion, and if there is any public comment on the motion at this time?
You can have a seat, sir. You can keep it.
Oh, thank you.
If you could identify yourself for our record.
Dorian Maxwell. The gentleman that you just spoke with, he is the labor relations manager, Chris Obora. He knows what's going on. He has access to the same files that Ms. O'Monday has, as well as Mr. Ellison, Mr. Reskin. He has access to those files. If he wanted to make restitution to Ms. Cecilia O'Monday, he could have done that today by going through the files, reviewing it. He's playing dumbfounded. Ms. Roberta Bloomer, she was present at work today because I was at the SFMTA board meeting today, and she was there as the secretary. And that's crazy, coming to work and not knowing it's coming to work and not knowing who's it. That's kind of crazy. So I recommend that this motion goes through with the full task force, with the recommendation that Ed Reskin shows up, and also make it with recommendations that an internal investigation goes on with the business practices in the labor relations department of the SFMTA. Also sending it to the Ethics Commission with those recommendations, because the Ethics Commission needs to do an internal investigation on how the SFMTA has played hot potato with any information request that the public requests. They play hot potato with it, and they play it in a manner to where it's frustrating to you guys, it's frustrating to the person that's trying to get the information. I fully support this motion and hope it passes, and that the recommendation to the full board be granted so we can come back before this whole board and get restitution, a resolution to this matter, and get some closure to it, because this situation has been going on far too long, for over 3 or 4 years now. And this entity is the last resort for Ms. O'Monday, unless she gets a federal subpoena from the Justice Department to get that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment on item number 5, or on the motion, the pending motion?
Would this be general public comment on the motion?
This is not general. This is specifically as to the motion at this time.
The SFMTA did some strange thing to me 2 weeks ago. I had my artwork stored in the Union Square parking garage for some 3 years without incident, and 2 weeks ago, the manager came to me and he said, the SFMTA came with your photo and they're looking for you. Well, why? What have I done? They're seeking to get a restraining order to keep you out of the garage. Well, why didn't they just tell me? Have I done anything wrong? He said, no. It's a little strange. I will never go back there.
Thank you. And is there any additional public comment on the motion? Seeing no further public comment.
The motion was to continue the matter to the November 5th meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. I do request that the SFMTA provide the response to me by October 29th so that I can include it as part of the packet of the November 5th meeting.
And while the motion does not contain a mandate that they respond to the original complaint, I do believe, but I think it would behoove the SFMTA and the representative that's still here, if you're, listening. I don't see you behind the podium. It would behoove the SFMTA to respond immediately to the order of determination that was issued early September. And do we need any this is to determine whether there should also be a willful violation, correct? I think we need to be clear.
I think that's something that would be determined at the full task force.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to see how, we need to learn more.
All right.
I assume that motion is approved without objection.
I think that's correct, seeing as we made the motion and seconded it. All right, thank you. That concludes that matter. And Ms. Hairston-Almonte, I apologize for, having you here yet again without conclusion on this matter. Hopefully we can reach that conclusion at the November 5th meeting. Well, we do have an opportunity for, I think the next item on our agenda is...
If you would like to rescind the decision temporarily and allow Ms. Cmd to make her comments. She was not given her full 5 minutes. It is at your discretion if you...
I'm happy to hear what Ms. Omondi has to say, absolutely. Since you're here, I would absolutely, yeah, please.
I'll make this quick. Mr. Chrissy Boer said that he's going to respond to my complaint as soon as possible, like starting tomorrow. But I have a feeling he's going to send me a letter stating that they don't have any information. They can't answer they don't have anything pertaining to my questions that I had submitted in September. That letter is not really going to be accepted because he knows the answer. He knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. He dodges me every time he sees me. So he knows what's going on. They communicate. And his secretary knew about it. That's why she's not here. But he knows what's going on, and he's going to get to a letter now that he's had from October the 7th to the 21st. Now he's going to generate a letter stating that we have no findings. We gave you everything. You haven't given me everything. So we will be seeing each other again on November the 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Omondi. And we don't need a new motion on this matter, but again, to the member of the SFMTA that is present here, it would also behoove you to be very, very thorough. Address each request. Convince us that no further documentation exists. We were not convinced of that when this matter was before the full task force. So you're going to have a lot of legwork to do. The burden on you is high before our next meeting, and I think I'm going to be explaining to the full task force in detail the violation and that I'm seeing today. So I encourage you to be very, very thorough. Address each item in Ms. Hairston-Almondi's request.
As I promised, I said I will respond to her request, and I will not be able to be here on November 5th. Hopefully, Mr. Ellison will be present.
Somebody who knows the full details of your response, who can convince, really, the burden is on you to convince the task force that compliance has been met at this point. It's not just to satisfy Ms. Hairston-Almondi's request, which is your first obligation, but the second is to convince the task force that we should not find additional violations against the SFMTA for what is an abject failure to respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adobe?
Nothing is, right, nothing. Yeah. No, you are not too harsh.
The entire package.
You are restrained. I hit just the right note.
Good.
I just wanted to make sure you had the file, so I gave him my copy.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 6, Members of the public may address the Compliance Amendments Committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda. Public comment.
Member Hefner, Member Washburn, I just want to explain to you that I don't believe there's going to be any compliance with the Arts Commission in the documents that I gave in today. The matter of the non-posting of the minutes, the late posting, the strange postings of the minutes has been going on since 2003. I just randomly looked through executive meeting minutes and found that they were holding meetings by phone. There's no public comment. You don't know when they posted. That's going back very long. For me, it's kind of very difficult to comprehend that a commission secretary who's collecting a six-figure salary and having the same job for 10 years just certainly doesn't know these things are wrong. And I don't believe there'll be any compliance in the future. The meetings are still posting late. The minutes post late. The agendas, particularly in one advisory committee, are completely incomprehensible. There are no minutes to that meeting. You can't really understand what took place. There's that aspect of it. And then there's the unanswered IDRs, like the ones that are pending today. I sent one yesterday to the woman who's sitting in the back. There's no response. There's never is. There's no one to call, to talk to about it. There's absolutely nothing, and it goes both ways. The city attorney's office, you can talk to Gabriel Zittrain, he can convey information, but that's not the way things are supposed to go. If you file an IDR, there's a certain procedure. You don't have to reach out here. You don't have to meet with the Union Square bid. You don't have to try and find out where are the spaces for downtown. This should all be available to the public, which it's not. I find that they're basically snubbing their nose at you. As I mentioned, I saw Krill in the street probably a month ago. She just laughed and walked the other way. I mean, it's gotten to a joke. These people have no regard for the Sunshine Task Force. They don't even know what it is. I think by this issue of failing to send a knowledgeable representative is a very serious one. And in the complaints that are coming up next week, you'll see in the response, they have no clue about the Sunshine Task Force. And for all this time that I've been bringing complaints, which has been about 2 years, they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. It's very frustrating on my part because I'm just somebody who wanted simple bits of information. And to have to reach out and jump through the hoops that a person needs to go through it's exhausting. They're not going to comply.
Is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, we can move on to the next item.
Okay. All right. Calling item then number 7.
Item number 7, file number 14093, hearing. Ethics Commission policy discussion regarding Sunshine Ordinance Task Force referrals. I believe we do have a representative from the Ethics Commission.
Okay. I was very happy to see this policy memorandum. This is, I feel like what we've endeavored to do at the task force, or what a lot of us set out to do, is to work with the Ethics Commission on clarifying some of these policies and eliminating some of these issues. I thought this was a great memo to read through, and I'm looking forward to our discussion of it, since we do have a representative here. If you have any words for us or want to be part of this discussion, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, Jesse Minardi, Deputy Executive Director. Happy to be here. Just no sort of overall comments other than to say that at the task force meeting, I know you folks had asked if we could push the meeting back on our end, and I think it's been communicated to you that it has been pushed back. So it will be in November, and that's the Monday prior to Thanksgiving. So we're going to have the discussion there. And then, I can stick around if you have any questions or anything. I have to leave about 5. But as you...
We all have a ball.
We all have to leave at about 5.
Okay, good. Well, then we'll all be out of here at the same time. But just wanted to sort of just reiterate what I said last time, which is this is really offered in the spirit of, this was a much broader sort of memo to begin with, and I really clamped it down because what I wanted to do is get to some of the real procedural issues, because I've only been at the Ethics Commission since March. And sort of time and again, a lot of what's happened is we've been dealing with these procedural issues and not getting to the sort of the heart of the matter. And I do think that people of goodwill can sort of disagree on both procedural and substantive issues, and I'm sure that I'll disagree with a lot of people, and a lot of people disagree with me about things. But I do think that we all have an interest in making sure that we can kind of get to those substantive issues and have a fair hearing. So that's how it was offered, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. But
Great.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Minardi, that I've been on the task force. This is my 7th year, and I've seen a welcome evolution in how in the relationship between the Ethics Commission and the task force. We were frustrated for many years because Executive Director St. Croix would dismiss everything we sent, and the commissioners never heard any of our matters. So I was part of the group that responded to the recommendations that were made several years ago, and met with the Ethics Commission and at one of your meetings, a couple of your meetings, I think. So it's been heartening to see that now the commissioners are hearing our matters, and yes, there are some things to be worked out, and I think you've done a really good job of identifying some of these things, and we have the same. We're on the same page with a lot of these things, frankly. So I will actually be the one who will be at the meeting on the 27th. Okay. But I will miss our next 2 meetings because I'll be traveling for work, so I'll have to be brought up to speed. But I'll be the one there. So just to let you know my history with this. And
great. Well, just by the way, so this October, we have our October 27th meeting, and that's when we originally had thought, but we're not gonna consider it then. So it'll then be in November.
Oh, yeah, I meant
okay.
November. Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, and we have plenty to discuss. A lot of these issues, particularly with respect to, whether a department head is named, whether just the department is named, and what that means, what the consequence of that is, that I think reflects another level involving the complainant in the exact complaint that's filed, and determining what respondents are named in that original complaint, over which we have somewhat limited control. In fact, when we have our meetings here, we grapple with that, whether we can name an additional respondent or whether we can issue an order of violation or order of determination against an additional respondent who is not named in the complaint, which raises potential due process issues. As you rightfully note here, I think that it doesn't raise due process issues if it's not leading to a deprivation of their liberty or property. I think that, you run that risk, that same implication, if the reputational harm being done is so substantial as to potentially jeopardize future employment, but in any event, it's something that we grapple with, and I think that we need to, this is at the same time that we're having conversations at our task force meetings about what respondents to name, or what respondents we can name in an order of determination, this is helping that conversation along significantly. As to item, I'm wondering, I'm trying to do a quick check here. I appreciate that recommendations are made in addition to options for proceeding. I think the issue is with us. I don't have any immediate questions for you, and I think that any questions that we have for you may surface after our discussion with the full task force. Member Washburn, do you have any?
Well, since I'm not going to be present at the full task force meeting where this is going to be heard, this would be my opportunity just to speak my mind about some things. I think first off, I don't know to what extent the Ethics Commission understands our processes and sort of the life cycle of a complaint and what can happen along the way. But Chair Hepner alluded to this, but a complainant will file a complaint with us, and it's often a very sort of ill-formed complaint. The complainant doesn't know who to name, so they struggle, we struggle, and often in our initial hearing, it's a lot of work for us to figure out just what transpired and who should be named as the respondent. So the way it's, when it's first on our agenda, and a respondent may be named, and it may change because we learn more. So that's kind of a moving target. And then if we find a violation at that full task force meeting, if it's a public records request, typically that matter will go to this committee, Compliance and Amendments, and we'll hear it. And so sometimes compliance is made and everything is fine, and that usually is the case, but sometimes not. It has to go back to the full task force. But in this process, we may learn more. Or we may find that, there's the original complaint, but now we have the problem of, like the MTA matter here today. I don't know if you heard that, but...
No, I didn't get that.
Here we issued an order of determination, and absolutely nothing was done. Nothing. So we have another problem now. So the cases kind of change, and they change because we learn more, or there are further violations, actually. So we need to be, and Victor and I were talking about this, we need to be diligent about possibly revising the order of determination that you get, and including more of that history. We sort of send you very minimalist orders of determination, yeah. And so one thing that you mentioned, and that we were already on it though before you mentioned it to us, is we need to have clear listing of facts and findings, and so you'll be seeing that from us. But I just wanted to convey to you that this is a whole process. It's moving targets, and new things come up. So I think that's issue number one.
May I just say something?
Sure, absolutely.
So totally appreciated. And I think from the perspective of the Ethics Commission, the way it plays out, hopefully I laid it out there, is that not sort of notions of due process, or at least fairness, is that when somebody gets to us, we either, are looking at them through our Chapter 3, where we sort of basically kind of do our own investigation and say, okay, we're going to look at this again, or we do Chapter 2, in which case we're sort of relying on you folks to say, hey, this is what happened. And it's in those cases where we're relying on you folks where the issue, at least for me, I think some of the commissioners are on the same page with me on this, where if we have a sense that maybe the person who's before us, where there's a presumption already against them, didn't necessarily have that chance to kind of make their case in front of you, or like they weren't noticed, or whatever it might be. And these are, there could be any reason. You guys, all of us, are sort of understaffed and overworked. It sort of raises the issue of whether we should continue to have that presumption where they have to actually rebut it, or whether we should go back and say, okay, well, the task force made a determination, now we're going to kind of look at it again, and instead of, them having to rebut the presumption, somebody actually has to prove that they violated the ordinance. A lot of it's sort of I don't want to say semantics, but, it's moving the burden and, it's very lawyery stuff, so.
Well, the Phil Gibbs, the Reckin Park
Yeah.
case, that one is interesting because, and we haven't heard it again, and you sent it back to us, but we knew that this was in the works, so we
Yeah, yeah.
decided to,
Right.
kind of deal with this, and that would help us with that case. But, here was an instance where the complainant didn't name, the department head. But when we found a violation and then the order wasn't complied with, then that's when we brought the department head in, because we had made an order of determination and the department head knew about it and he was CC'd on it, and we asked for him to come to the meetings. And I think we can show that he was he even says he was aware of it in his response to us. So I think we need to be better historians and just more careful about what, keep these matters in mind. Yeah.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. And would you, just one last thing is, with respect to the procedures, certainly in the Appendix B that we included there,
Right.
it's very general. I didn't want to get too technical, but certainly if you or anyone has feedback, if there's certainly any glaring errors that I've made, I think it's fairly true to your procedures without getting too bogged down in the details. But certainly if you have any feedback, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I haven't read it
Okay.
carefully, but
Sure.
I'll take a look at that, certainly. So moving to, mindful of the time, moving to item number 2, I think we've kind of, this one is tricky, and it's probably a case-by-case basis about when the department head becomes involved. And I read with great interest what you had to say about that, and I don't disagree with anything. I did have a question about the footnote. On page 7, but it's just an interesting thing that we can talk about, but not today. But the department head has to make sure that people are trained, and so if we find them in violation, then if they know that they can be found in violation, if their people who work for them aren't trained, then that's some incentive for them to comply. But then if the Ethics Commission can't do anything to enforce this, then there's no, so all this is very interesting.
And as to the second issue, I actually kind of think you nailed it with the potential options.
All of them.
Yeah, and the commission recommends adoption of options 1, 2, and 3. I thought they were all great.
Yeah.
But when I was reading through the second issue, I was thinking about ratification and how can you hold a department head responsible even if they had no knowledge of the complaint, but if they were in charge of the procedures that were instituted to respond, if they delegated authority in such a way that they should be held responsible for the delegation of that authority, or they created the policy that was inadequate. And this does, I think, touch on all of those issues. The option 1, adopt a policy of treating a complaint against a department, not a named employee, as a complaint against its department head. That was, I'm happy to do so. But I think that requires that we be explicit in our notice that do we always notice the head of the department when it's just a department being named?
Each department has an official, not all departments, but most departments have a custodian of records who I send the complaints to. I cannot always send it to department heads because many department heads do not have official email addresses.
Right. Interesting.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting. In any event, I mean, if that's the case, it's almost as if a complaint against a department should, explicitly name the custodian of records of that department, if not also the department head, the individual whose job duty is explicitly to respond to these types of sunshine requests. But that was curious. That was that. Otherwise, option 2 and 3, I agree.
Yeah, it's very helpful to me to see the different options and how they match various scenarios we see. Could we move on to number 3?
Yes.
Number 3 is an interesting case, and we run up against this all the time. And looking at the language of the ordinance in 67.21E, there's the city department is supposed to send an authorized representative, but the rest of that sentence is authorized representative who can explain the basis for its decision. Okay, so we very often will have a spokesperson for the department, and that spokesperson may only just read a statement. And that's all that person's been asked to do. So when we ask questions, that person can't answer the questions. And this happens all the time. And so we find we have a difficult time figuring out what's going on. So we've been, and it's evolved over time, but we think the ordinance should be amended to say knowledgeable representative, because this just causes us so many problems. We can't figure out what's going on. So that happened today. And because the people who could answer the questions couldn't come, so they sent somebody who said, I just found out a few seconds ago, that I was supposed to come here. I can't tell you anything. So, I mean, what do we do with that?
From personally, I'm definitely sympathetic to that. Obviously, you folks are going to have questions, and to the extent somebody can't answer it, it's very frustrating. I think part of in terms of the recommendation here is that there are the two issues of both the language of the ordinance, but then also from sort of an adjudicative perspective from the Ethics Commission is, it's difficult because if, and these are hypotheticals, let's say that somebody shows up and they can answer, and they come and they read a statement and they can answer 8 of the 10 questions. But then those 2 questions are kind of important. And so, maybe they can only answer 1 of the 10 questions, so obviously there's going to be this spectrum. And it's sort of difficult, I would think, from the perspective of our commission to say, well, was the task force happy or not? Obviously, they were happy, but we have to sort of sit in judgment as to whether their decision was reasonable or not. And my thought is that ultimately, if you folks ask somebody to be here and they say send somebody who really doesn't have any sort of perspective on the issue, who isn't going to add anything other than reading a statement, I would think that ultimately is going to reflect on your conclusion, because to the extent they're going to try to give mitigating factors of saying, and defend what they did, if they're not here to defend that, the only thing you are going to have to go on is what the complainant is saying. So to me, it's in the department's best interest to send somebody who really knows what they're talking about, and to the extent they don't, and there are a lot of sort of unanswered questions, I would think that's ultimately going to be reflected in your ultimate determination.
Right, exactly. And I wish you had been here for the previous matter, the SFMTA matter, because that was precisely this issue where we found a violation for them not sending an authorized representative, and a violation for not producing all responsive documents. And it may very well be that all responsive documents were produced, but because they didn't send a knowledgeable representative, we had no means of determining what steps they went through to look for the records, to correspond with Ms. Hairston-Omondi regarding, why certain records were withheld. I mean, it was as if somebody shows up and says, we have no responsive records, and then they can't explain, they can't just, we're supposed to believe that, So that's usually, I feel like, where our violation for that prong comes in. And you're absolutely right that if we can't, dig a little deeper with that person, if that person has no knowledge of the search that went on, then, we're frustrated. So we find both a violation of, the failure to produce documents because we have no means of verifying, and a failure to provide, for somebody who actually responded to it,
Right.
So.
And this is kind of what happened with the Recon Park case, if I'm recalling it all correctly, is that, Olive Gong would come, and she's the custodian of records, and she was doing what she was told to do, but we were disagreeing with what the policy was, and we wanted to talk to somebody about that, and that person never came, and so, that's what we were finding a problem, and we let the department know this. We let the department head know. We haven't been able to talk to anybody who can explain this policy and that we can discuss it with, because we have a differing opinion here. And we're trying to interpret the law, and we're interpreting it in a way that we think is correct, but we have nobody on your side can explain anything to us. Mm-hmm. And then they knew that we wanted to have that conversation. They kept not sending somebody. So, what are we supposed to do in that case?
So, yeah. And then looking at the potential options then, I mean, I think that without, I'm hesitant to speak on behalf of the full task force, but I think that we would want option one, somebody who was actually involved in responding to the records request. That way we can determine, X, Y, and Z. I think at a minimum, option two. And option two, I do think, reflects the deputy city attorney's advice that you note in the previous paragraph. That they've interpreted it to mean an authorized representative, so long as that person is able to accurately state the response of that officer or employee to the task force. I wish it said accurately support the response of that officer or employee of the task force, because that's what we're really looking for, is support for the response that was given. So I would prefer option one. I would settle for option two. I mean, and option three, it just leaves us with no capability of actually investigating whether there is a failure to respond to a records request. It's very hard at that point. And we don't, when it comes to us before the task force, there's conflict, there's going to be disagreement. There needs to be somebody who can rebut the allegation that, full records have not been supplied. We don't see the cases that settle very early on that may only necessitate all records have been supplied. Oh, yeah. So that's kind of my feeling on that one, but, that's something that we'll certainly discuss. And may disagree with the ethics staff on that, but we'll support it with our reasoning and.
Yeah, and I mean I encourage you. This process is hopefully fair and open. So I mean, to the extent we do disagree on something, I have no problem and encourage you to
certainly
give your 2 cents to the commissioners, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear it. So
one thing I think our task force and the Ethics Commission have maybe a slightly different charge in all of this, and that we believe that, if there's any ambiguity, then we find in favor of the complainant. We find in favor of openness, sunshine, giving the records rather than withholding them. And we also, you don't hear our public meetings. We have all those complaints as well. So it's always, that's how I personally approach it. If it's a gray area, then I find for the complainant. So, but you're tasked with, is this employee or this officer of the city to be held liable for something? It's a little bit different.
A little bit, yeah. I would think so.
Okay, well, that, I think, sums up issues 1, 2, or 3. I think that everything else, any further product on our end will be the result of more discussions.
Okay.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Okay, take care.
And I suppose it's worthwhile to discuss right now our procedure for how we want to respond to this, and whether are we tasked as the Compliance and Amendments Committee with presenting, a recommendation or an explanation of our discussion here to the full task force on November 5th. I would imagine resulting in a policy memo from the task force that we can then bring to the Ethics Commission on November 27th. Is that about
Yeah,
right?
I think we should. I think our committee should have something to send forward for the 5th. I think the members would appreciate it.
I'm happy to review the discussion that we had today and draft at least our preliminary thoughts that would then, lead to a more definitive, agreeable, statement that reflects the whole task force's. Yes, Mr. Minardi. Yes,
I
please.
just want to say procedurally, from our perspective, so this is a draft, and what I'm going to do at our next meeting, which is on the 27th, is I intend to distribute the memo to our commissioners as a draft. So they will get exactly what you guys got, and they're going to get it a month ahead of time, so hopefully they'll have time to kind of digest and think about it. But having said that, it is a draft, so I'm going to put this in finalized form. I may tweak a few things. I don't think I'm going to go way off of what I have there. Like, for instance, what you said about, the department head being if you name the department, is that naming the department head? I mean, one of the things is the notice issue, which is a good issue. I'm thinking, oh, wow, I need to think about that, obviously. So I just wanted to let you guys know from a procedural perspective of what we're going to do, and then that memo is generally sent out, I guess like the Thursday before our meeting. So I don't know a way. I mean, I'm happy to distribute it to you guys that Thursday. I don't know if there's a way to do that.
That'd be great if you just send it to Victor and he distributes things to the task force.
Okay.
Just what would you like to receive from us in advance of November's meeting? What would be most effective coming from us?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Is a written memorandum appropriate? Would people read it? What would be the most helpful?
Well, if you wanted to submit something, then ultimately we present it to the commissioners, and then if you gave it to me ahead of time, I could look at it and see if I wanted to make any adjustments or make any comment on what you said. I guess that would be fine, and then we could include it as part of our packet for the commission, so as part of their consideration as well.
Okay.
I guess maybe that's the best way.
Nothing like that is going to come before our November 5th meeting, but if I submit it to you in advance of your November meeting, then...
Definitely.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
And we have to, I don't know what date that is, but, I guess it's like the 18th or the 20th or whatever, but we usually get the agenda and all the packet materials out by the Thursday prior to our Monday meeting.
Okay. And then I would get our memorandum to you before that date or by that date then?
Well, if you wanted me to kind of read it and see if I wanted to incorporate it or any of that stuff, I'd probably need it before then. Because, but if, you just wanted the commissioners, if that was good enough to get it to the commissioners, then we would need it probably by that Wednesday, I guess.
Okay. I'm trying to set a deadline for whoever's going to work on this. So if the packet goes out to commissioners the Thursday before the meeting, would a week before that Thursday? Would that be enough for you to read it? Okay, great.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this issue, on this item, before we conclude that matter for now? Seeing none. Before we move on to the next issue, I just want to make clear that I will draft a sort of policy or sort of an analysis of the Ethics Commission's draft report here for the task force to review, and it will largely just reflect the conversation that we just had. I'll listen back to the record and or to the audio and just sort of put some of those items, put some of that discussion into writing for the full task force. But I believe that concludes that matter, and if we could move on to the next agenda item.
I just wanted to clarify that that item will appear on the November 5th meeting of the full task force.
Great, thank you.
Item number 8, Administrator's Update, Arts Commission Procedures and Policy Review, Agendas, Minutes, Audios, and Public Records Request. I just wanted to state that I've been working with the Arts Commission. As you probably know, there have been several complaints against the Arts Commission concerning minutes, audios, agendas, and public records requests. And I have spoken with the Arts Commission concerning the majority of those requests, and I've developed some recommendations. They have agreed with some of them. And I'm hoping that from this process, we can create a guide to all departments on how they should respond to public records requests, how they should be tracking their minutes and so forth, because I do receive a lot of calls from other agencies asking, what should I be doing, and so forth, and we do not have anything to give them.
Right.
So I will quickly go through my what I've been working on with the Arts Commission. Item 1 is just a listing of the requirements pursuant to the Sunshine Ordinance. Number 2, the Arts Commission staff, this may seem a little disjointed because I'm addressing issues as they came up. There was a complaint concerning access to Arts Commission audio and the format not being unavailable. Mm-hmm. I spoke with Arts Commission and they use Granicus, the city software, to upload the audio programs that is available online on their website. If the complainant can't, or if a member of the public cannot open it, they can request a copy in a CD format.
Ms. Datesh, if we could, there will be plenty of time for you to comment on this. I know that's why you're here. Okay.
The next item, number 3, I did request that the Arts Commission provide a listing of all the commissions and committees listed on their website, provide a title of who is responsible for posting it for historic purposes, and also include an explanation if certain listings are not required to be posted or minutes or agendas to be maintained. There is an attachment at the end of the packet on page 292, which is a listing of all their commissions or committees, a list of the title of the person who is responsible for maintaining the postings. I have also requested that he provide a listing of their November and December meetings so that I can keep track of them myself to ensure compliance for the next 2 months. The Arts Commission has complied with that request. I do want to note that the Department of Technology, this was another question that may be a little bit disjointed. The Department of Technology supplies and maintains the system information architecture, but does not post the audio agendas or minutes. This was a result of a question or IDR to the Arts Commission as to who actually posts the minutes online, and it is the responsibility of the Arts Commissions to get it online. The Department of Technology only provides the software and architecture to get it online. Item number 4, request that at a minimum, the SFMTA posts minutes marked as draft within 10 working days after the meeting. Upon approval by the committee or commission, the approved version of the minutes shall be posted online and provided to the public library. The San Francisco Arts Commission has agreed to this request. I believe in the past, I'm not sure how far back, minutes were posted online as final versions, or they were not marked as draft when they were posted. And this will resolve that issue. Verification of posting. I have suggested to the SFMTA that they maintain a log to state what day they have posted the agenda minutes and audio, just for record-keeping purposes. They have tentatively agreed to consider this recommendation. They are considering how to implement that procedure today or currently. In addition, upon my review of their agendas and minutes, on the bottom of their agendas and minutes, they currently initial it in red with a date. But someone who does not know what that means wouldn't know what that date was supposed to mean.
Right. Yeah.
I have requested that they say posted on date, and the Arts Commission has agreed to do that. Okay, item number 6 is the position of the Arts Commission that pursuant to advice from the City Attorney's Office that committees of the Arts Commission are not required to post minutes and audio recordings. However, as a courtesy, the Arts Commission provides minutes and audios. They have stated this position at previous meetings. The task force should probably make a determination if this is a true statement or not and create a hearing to consider this matter.
So this is, of course, the Arts Commission has to post minutes and recordings, but these are the committees.
There are subcommittees of the Arts Commission. I believe there was a statement made that because they are subcommittees, the Sunshine Ordinance does not apply to them. They have city attorney advice to that effect, but several members of the task force has disagreed with that position.
Yeah, we had a case about that. And
I believe it was the Arts Commission.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Recently, we had that case, and I remember even when we deliberated it at length, and I remember just being troubled by the ambiguity over whether this specific meeting was a policy, whether this was whether these were passive meeting bodies or policy bodies, which then bears on whether that body needs or is subject to other requirements in the Sunshine Ordinance. At the same time, I'm pleased and that the Sunshine or that the Arts Commission has agreed to provide these minutes. I think in the interest of sunshine and technology permitting and resources permitting, it would be nice to mandate that such subcommittees be. You know what it was? It wasn't an Arts Commission meeting. It was the meeting regarding the closure of massage parlors, was it not? Do you remember that? Recently, a few regular meetings ago, and
I may be type of a hearing officer situation where it was only a member of staff only sitting as the committee member.
Right, but they were making determinations.
Yes.
They were making final decisions on issues, which I thought triggered the obligation for that to be subject to other Sunshine Ordinance requirements. I mean, if whether it's one person or several, if they're making ultimate determinations at those meetings, that ought to trigger further sunshine obligations. I mean, we certainly have to revisit this, and
I believe I made a suggestion someplace in this memo that we really should review the Good Government Guide and determine where we agree or disagree with the city attorney's opinion.
Right.
Because there are several locations where the task force disagrees with the city attorney on various issues.
And as one of the ethics commissioners said, the Good Government Guide is just the city attorney's ruminations about these matters. It's not, those are not legal, they're not formal briefs, and we can disagree, and we strongly disagree. We can be more insistent.
right. And in any event, the Good Government Guide should not be the final resource for departments. And I think that us putting forward these types of requirements and sort of our own Sunshine Ordinance Government Guide, would be good. But yeah. certainly going back to the good government guide, just to see where we would disagree or agree would be beneficial on that issue.
I have a whole list of things for the task force to consider.
What is that?
I have a whole list of issues for the task force.
From the good government
good.
guide?
Oh, good.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Great.
I believe that completes the section concerning audio minutes and agendas. My understanding is that the the Arts Commission is up to date except for the Executive Committee minutes, which is scheduled to be back before the Compliance Amendments Committee in the December meeting. Besides that, I believe the website is current and up to date.
And they've been posting minutes, drafts within 10 days?
There was one or two instances that was brought to my attention by Mr. Tesh. I did speak with the Arts Commission. They have had a staff meeting to discuss and educate their staff members, and I believe hopefully that issue is resolved.
Okay.
The next part of it, public records request, gets very, I do not have a word for it, but subjective in terms of has the department complied or not. I have listed in item 1 the requirements under Administrative Code Section 67.25. Under Section 2A and B, I have tried to state the positions of the two separate parties, the general public and the department.
Right. And in reading through both of those positions, I recalled specific instances before the full task force where we had to grapple with and often agreed with both of those positions. They're not entirely conflicting, and I am sympathetic to the complainant's inability to get certain records, and simultaneously sympathetic, other concerns notwithstanding, to the Arts Commission when they're being bombarded with sort of ongoing sort of requests for oral policy statements, and it's that thing where they're not capable of responding to that request within a 15-minute period, and then it becomes problematic on their end. So I'm sympathetic to both of those positions. They're requesting a numeric limit on numbers of requests, along with a limit on repetitive requests.
I can probably address the repetitive request issue.
Okay.
I believe recently there is I've been reviewing the IDR requests for the past month. I believe there was requests for the street artist file on one street artist. The Arts Commission complied, and they provided a copy of the logbook inspection of that street artist. However, the complainant does not believe that it's a complete issue, and she believes that there is an additional file for that street artist. However, the request was made 3 or 4 times for the same document, and I believe the Arts Commission has replied saying we've already provided that information. So that gets into repetitive request type issue.
Right, and the sort of distrust between the complainant and the respondent as to whether full compliance has been met. And I can envision that before the task force and our just frustration and the impossibility of determining whether it's fully been complied with. That I can foresee that complaint, and it's not pretty.
And it happens with other bodies and other people too.
It goes back to that issue where we need somebody who's knowledgeable and who, in fact, we can trust to testify as to the extent to which they've tried to comply with the complaint or the request.
And I believe that would be part of this policy I'm trying to, or guide that I'm trying to create in how the department should respond to individual requests.
Right.
The last case for Ms. Omandi, where we stated, please state how you responded to each document request and provide an explanation of why it's not available or something that more detail from the department.
Right. I would like to include in that some type of privilege log or some type of, if something was withheld, why was it withheld?
Well, that's complying with the law. too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not just something nice to do, it's required.
Right. Okay. And if you want to continue for now, and then we'll.
Item 3 is some recommendations I created.
3-0.
3-0 already?
3-0.
Okay. Sorry for the brief.
No problem.
Giants.
The Arts Commission currently maintains of logs of records requests and tracks the progress of the records request. I believe they already do this, but list date of receipt and date of response in the log. If there are any delays, note the reason why. I believe that their log already states that. It is attached. It is relatively small printing, but I believe if you squint, you can figure it out. I also made the suggestion that the Arts Commission create a central email address to accept all public records requests, and that any individual members or of staff who receive a records request forward it to the central email for processing, just so that there is only one person who is responding to all requests, and that would alleviate the problem of receiving responses from multiple people.
Okay.
And this is another suggestion that I have heard from the task force, that upon receipt of a records request, they should immediately state that they have received the request and that they will respond shortly, just so that there's no chance that the item was lost. Item 4, other issues, suggestions, and questions regarding records requests. I'm just going over this again. It's been a while since I've written this. It comes up to are questions concerning policies considered public records. The SFMTA, the SF Arts Commission does not believe that questions are usually considered records requests, but does not, that becomes a policy question of, is a question considered public records request? There is that 15-minute limit currently. Next on the list is, should the city have a standard format for responding to records requests in terms of audio and documents?
That doesn't seem too controversial.
Departments may have different formats.
I suppose.
And I believe that the complainants may request documents in different formats. I believe
Okay. Well, I take it back then.
Yeah, we've had cases before where members of the public can request information in whatever format is reasonable.
Yeah, and typically in my experience in litigation discovery context, it tends to be whatever it's kept in its normal course of business. It doesn't require the changing of formats unless the format that it exists in natively is not capable of being read by the person receiving the documents. But okay.
And the rest of this section is just questions that have been brought up in the past concerning public records requests that may not be addressed.
Right.
The future actions that I have suggested is that complaints against the Arts Commission be temporarily directed to the Compliance Amendments Committee for review to ensure that the committee remains in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. That would be both minutes and public records requests.
On that topic, just very briefly, first of all, I wouldn't want that to result in delay of hearing valid complaints before the task force, or and secondly, I don't want to predetermine whether a complaint is valid, and it's tough. I mean, I see why, but it's almost like you're doing. I feel like you do so already with your administrator's report. Is that correct?
I am moving more towards that.
Okay.
I am trying to do additional analysis on the requests for public records and the complaints regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I would just like somebody to review what my analysis to see what's going on and make determinations and possibly come up with solutions regarding that. Maybe I can send a copy to the complaints committee and process them
Right.
in a normal process.
I mean, my thinking is I like it as sort of putting them on heightened notice that we're looking at complaints directed to the Arts Commission extra closely, sort of like a probationary period until they, are not before us every meeting. You know what I mean? But if it results in delay, of processing complaints, we only meet once every 2 months or so. I wouldn't want that to result in a big delay of the hearing of complaints before the full task force.
Yes, I think this works in both directions in regards to public records requests.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides have issues with the way that is handled.
Right.
So my new suggestion is that I will provide a copy to the complaints committee with my analysis, and then I will process them in a normal way.
Great. Okay.
I already mentioned creating a guide regarding how to respond to records requests. And investigate who shall determine if a request is a public record. We currently have a supervisor of records, but I believe that it's just something that came to mind that some type of referee is needed to negotiate between the two parties at some time, but I don't know who that would be. I don't know how that would be done. It's just...
So the supervisor of records gets relatively few of these, though, right?
They do not receive many, yes.
Yeah. So the public doesn't know about that. Do you often send?
Well, they would determine if a record is public. However, they would not be determining if a response is complete or not.
Right.
So some type of referee is needed. Currently, the task force is that referee, but I currently have at least 20 complaints in regards to public records that I have not officially processed yet. I'm still analyzing them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
I believe this one will be a little bit of an ongoing process until we get things settled.
Right.
Create the guide.
And to be clear where we're at with the Arts Commission, this is not the meeting for determining whether they have reached compliance with the past violations that we found against the Arts Commission. Obviously, they're not necessarily here to, but isn't that meeting set for like December or when is that? When are they going to be before?
The Arts Commission is before the task force on the 28th concerning 3 separate issues.
The full task force?
2 complaints, yes, next week.
Wow, okay. And
I believe that my guiding factor in creating this administrative report is to be proactive and try to resolve the issues before it comes to the complaint level, or try to find some type of solution and get agreement from both parties to try to resolve the problems and prevent the complaints.
Right, I hear you. I think creating a guide to departments regarding how to respond to records requests would be among the more important work that we could do as the task force at this time.
I created a first draft on page 299.
I saw that, yeah, and I didn't have an opportunity to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I want to make sure that it complies with every section of the Sunshine Ordinance, which I imagine you've done, and I imagine it goes one step further and just it helps. What it should be is to facilitate sunshine and to, if you comply with all of these things, there's no way we're going to find a violation against you. This should be the high standard.
Yes.
And so that's great. I think that would be great.
I believe that Rebecca Krell from the Arts Commission is here, if she wants to say anything, and I believe Mr. Tesh is also here to...
Right, and instead of just open it to public comment, I actually would like to ask questions of both of you and try and facilitate this in the most effective manner possible, because I've heard extensively from both parties here, and don't need to hear just a repeat of everything. But Ms. Datesh, since you're up here, and if I could just start, we've spoken about these things. You've been before the task force numerous times. I understand your grievances. You're shaking your head, no, I don't.
No, I'm just done with this. After next week, I'm done. I don't have the stamina to go.
I understand that too, and you've told that to me so many times,
I'm
and
done.
I appreciate that you're back here helping us,
I don't really want to do this.
Okay. However, if you could, since you're here, was specifically with respect to the posting of minutes and audio recordings, have you read through this memorandum?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Specifically, is there anything in there that they are specific, that is misrepresented? When it says the SFAC has complied to request to item number 3 there, I understand that agreeing to a request is not complying with that request at this point, but can you just, is there anything specifically with respect to the posting of minutes, understanding still that they have here in this table acknowledged that they have 27 previous minutes to post, and they have set a December deadline for doing so. I mean, is there anything else that we can address on the topic of posting of minutes?
On the topic of posting of minutes, first up, asking for a 2-month probationary time where Mr. Young is going to monitor the posting of their minutes is not enough time. They have been late in posting their minutes for many, many years.
Okay, but going forward. That's all we have an option to do here, Ms. Datesh, is going forward.
Going forward, you have 12 complaints pending for late postings of minutes.
How late were they? Were they from you?
Yes,
Okay.
even after the ones that are coming up next week.
Because Mr. Young has represented that he knows 1 or 2 instances where compliance was not met, but you're representing that there are a dozen?
No, I have 12 complaints pending. There's the 2 late postings for the community minutes, the visual arts minutes, 1 late posting. There was the suggestion from the webmaster himself that the Arts Commission work with them so that they have certain guidelines that the Arts Commission would follow, and the webmaster would post the minutes. I included that for next week. Okay. So for the minutes, there really isn't too much. Either they're post on time or they don't. Either I file a complaint and wait, or I don't. And there's not too much leeway there. If I can now also add this thing, this is very disturbing, that the claim that it's on Grenacious and already available to the public online is false. And I've supplied for next week. This advisory committee policy body thing doesn't post audio, and there are...
Which policy body is that?
This would be the Advisory Committee of Craftsmen Examiners. I've spoke about this before. They're updating criteria for licensing. There's something about earrings and 2 inches, and you don't know what it is.
And I have here, it says audio is available upon request, but it doesn't look like they're posting audio, so is that...
If I could elaborate, I requested, or I asked, where can I find these minutes? Can you send me a CD audio? I will pay for it. Of course, no response from Lazar, which becomes these repetitive IDRs was it Krill who said, you can get it on something called Hightail. It will be there for 5 days. So I'm spending hours and hours trying to negotiate this Hightail thing to try and get some minutes, which should be posted on their website, and I can't do it. So that's the subject of yet another IDR. So the postings of the minutes, in my view, these people need to be educated. There are between 5 and 7 people over there who are posting minutes. They have no sunshine training except for a staff meeting where Adine Barrow went over there and showed them videos. I don't think much they have not really taken an initiative on their own. In fact, I believe their sunshine complaints sit in a box under Howard Lazar's desk.
Okay. Well, I understand that there's a repeat problem with Howard Lazar, who we have never met, to my knowledge. I don't know that has he ever been here?
Oh, yeah, he's been here.
He's been here?
Not as often as we would have liked to have, but he does come to.
Sure, right. Okay. So, maybe there's a better way than directing the complaints directly at Howard Lazar, and maybe that's where it becomes somebody else in the Arts Commission who has the training, who can respond to you effectively on these.
I'm so sorry, but there is no training over there. In fact, if you look at their website, you'll still find Kate Patterson as the communications officer.
Where I agree with you is that Howard Lazar is probably not the person who should be responding to these complaints, but
he doesn't respond anyway.
Right. So, let's not, maybe directing complaints at Howard Lazar is not the best way. And I'm going to ask the representative from the Arts Commission who's here who that person is that you can direct your complaints more.
It's hearsay, but it's Ms. Krill. So what I get from her are late IDRs that it's sandbagging. If she'll send me 3 separate PDFs, 2 are the exact same thing. You're trying to fish through this volume of information.
Are we on public records disclosure now?
You were gonna ask me questions. We were gonna have a discussion.
I know, but that wasn't. I'm trying to move through this document effectively and avoid it becoming just like a.
Can I just raise my concerns? I'm really tired. I really need to go. Okay, the public library has very little there in their archives. I've spent volumes of time over there, and over many, many years, they do not have very much as far as minutes, postings. They're supposed to go on binders. No deal. There are huge gaps where these minutes have not been sent to the public library. That is a government code violation, which I've mentioned before. As far as this this logbook that you seem to think is comprehensive, we went through hours and hours at the Education and Outreach, the Clark brothers, and the extra column at the end. It doesn't work because they're still losing IDRs. Then we move to the issue of sandbagging, which is a constant issue. You're wading through this volume of junk they send to see, is there anything that's even relevant to the IDR? And you might find 1 page, possibly. It's been brought up repeatedly in the past. If someone sends an IDR, it's a time-sensitive thing. They might say, we've received it. Doesn't happen. There's an open IDR sitting on the table now. One of the many no responses. And these are legitimate concerns that someone might have. If someone's asking for a file on a specific street artist, they maintain files. It's not a generic, I'm Howard Lazar, I walked around on this day, blah, 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 check, check, check. It's nothing like that. It's a file. And if you're asking for this person and you don't get a response, you might try that one. They're not repetitive. They're just annoying. The issue that wasn't addressed in this recommendation is the issue of the inventory of the audio minutes. That was included in the order that's due to be heard in October. All that I got was a quick thing from Krill saying we're going to have the minutes up by October. They're required to produce an inventory of what they have for audio cassettes. Has this happened? I don't think so. I saw the commission secretary shopping when there was an open IDR out. I see her very often in the back of the ferry building at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would guess she's going home. So, in a broad view, I'm sorry to take a pessimistic attitude, but I've exhausted myself just trying to get little bits of information, which could happen. People have offices. You hear it from complainants. I went to the office. I tried to have a conversation with somebody there. It doesn't happen with these people. I passed by their office yesterday afternoon. You know they don't answer the phone. You ring the buzzer. The door is locked. Nobody answers. You stand outside, you wait, you ring the buzzer. Nobody's there. And it's not the first time it's happened.
Okay.
There is no rapport here.
Okay, so I'm going to end that there. I want you to trust that look, no other department in San Francisco, no other department is being subject to this scrutiny right now, and it's testament to your ongoing efforts.
I'm done. I'm done.
I'm not asking you to go on. In fact,
I can't sit next to these stands of huge mass-produced stuff, seeing them take in thousands of dollars
I'm not going to shout over you.
I can't do it. I'm done.
I would appreciate, in fact, if you could be done and trusted us that we're going to get the Arts Commission in compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance. So thank you for coming today. I hope that this is going to become less and less of an issue. Now, there's a member of the Arts Commission here.
I'm so sorry, but next week, after the hearing, I'm going back east. Hasta la vista.
Thank you, Ms. Datesh, for your comments. And we have a member of the Arts Commission here.
Just showing you that she's made so many requests.
All right, and if you could name yourself for the record.
Sure. Excuse me. Good evening, members Washburn and Hebner. Rebecca Krell, Deputy Director and CFO of the San Francisco Arts Commission.
Thank you. And so I don't believe we have met before. In my limited time. Have you been before the task force?
No, we haven't.
Okay, and so are you, Ms. Patterson is no longer in her role of responding to task force complaints, is that so? Or
She's on family leave. She's having a baby.
Wonderful. And you are assuming her responsibilities in that regard until she returns?
Temporarily,
Okay.
exactly.
So you get a hint of what goes on at the task force. I don't know the extent of your knowledge of the number of complaints that are being filed and the scrutiny that the Arts Commission has been under. Mm-hmm. It's extreme, I think. Mm-hmm. And you know, to the credit of the complainants, a lot of these complaints have been very warranted and justified in the past. Mm-hmm. And I've, in my limited time on the task force, been very frustrated by the flippant responses from some individuals on the Arts Commission. Mm-hmm. Ms. Patterson, indeed, I found her to be sort of abrasive and aggressive towards the task force. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a manifestation of the nature of the complaints coming in. That's fine, but we're trying here to help the Arts Commission respond effectively to requests and at the same time appease the very, some of the more legitimate complaints from the public. Mm-hmm. Member Washburn, did you have something to add to that?
Yes,
that sort of prelude?
Yeah, I've been on the task force. This is my 7th year, so I've seen many matters brought to us by the Clark brothers, mm-hmm. by, for a while, Micah Dario, mm-hmm. now Paula Dadish. And some of the matters have some merit. I think certainly the minutes, there's a problem there, admittedly.
Absolutely.
I also, just in looking at the log of all the requests for public records.
Mm-hmm. I do have a clean copy for you if it's easier, because it was difficult for me to read, so I made a copy.
I have reading glasses.
Okay.
And I can fully appreciate how put upon, I'm going to be frank, how put upon the Arts Commission staff must feel by the requests. They are voluminous and just unremitting. Unrelenting, that's the right word. So I look at this and I think if I were working there, I would go run in the other direction from, seriously, I'm being frank here. Okay?
I appreciate that.
And so I think there's just, I don't know if it's a systems problem. I don't know that it is. I think it's a problem having to do with personalities. And so that creates problems for us. But nonetheless, there have been some real systems issues. So the minutes, and also just having, in the street artist program, having a proper accounting. So, and having people present to answer the phone. And but, that said, yeah, and we are working with you. But I have to say, when I saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, that is, I don't know if that's your.
It is absolutely, and it's at the same time as this is going on, I feel personally bombarded. And I don't think I need to be curt about explaining on the record that, a member of the public has my phone number, somehow miraculously got my cell phone number, and I've received 12 calls in the past week, and it's with voicemails that go on for 5 minutes apiece. And I'm just, that's just another facet of it. I think that there is a gap that needs to be bridged on sunshine compliance, and as you can see, we're being deliberate about, doing so. And I think that I saw you shaking your head when you said, yes, a guide on how to respond to public record requests would be appreciated. And that's where it's a bit on us, to educate respondents on how to comply effectively, make it easy for you to comply. That does not account for dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of complaints being filed, because even if you have the procedure set up for it, that's a nearly insurmountable amount of work. I have a question that may be sort of outside the purview of what we're doing here, but may make me understand how to sort of more effectively mediate the conflict between members of the public and the Arts Commission. What's going on? Is there some sort of sea change in Arts Commission policy that is making it impossible for street artists and street vendors to survive in San Francisco? Is there such a hierarchy of conflict at the street vendor level that certain members of the public feel like attacking the Arts Commission and are using this as their venue to do so? Can you provide me with any of that context for what is happening here?
Sure, I'll do my best. I would like to just acknowledge on the record and publicly thank Mr. Young. He's been so incredibly committed and dedicated and diligent in his work with us, and I just really appreciate his efforts. I feel like he's going above and beyond to really be solution-focused and proactive, and so I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate it.
I'll echo that. Thank you.
He's the best.
It's a really challenging job. So, certainly the log, which I know was the Sunshine member's suggestion and request to us, is a really helpful document for us to have. And I think, as you can see, it's great to have the tangible data so you can really see the number of requests and requester. So I think there is a, not sure how tactful, diplomatic, it's such a formal format.
I encourage you to be candid, though this is being recorded and will be made available to the public, so I caution you at the same time. But
I understand. I think we have a situation where there is, I guess I should back up and say, obviously, as a public office, we receive a lot of questions and requests for information from the public, every day. And most of them are not, because a lot of members of the public, they're not aware of Sunshine, and so it's not like they're a formal IDR or a formal request for public documents, but they're just in the nature of doing business of, people have questions. So we always strive to get back to them as quickly as possible and, within 24 to 48 hours, if at all possible. And I think this situation here really is it's an outlier to the most extreme degree, where there really is a issue, a very challenging issue that we're doing our best to, comply and meet the requests in as efficient and effective and equitable a manner as possible. But it is a very difficult situation with one particular person. I think you already, stated that obviously you're aware of the behavior. There's a very long history of troubling. I really don't want to say anything here that's going to then exacerbate the situation for us, but there's a long history of behavior like the behavior you discussed.
We're certainly aware of the litany of complaints.
Right. So I mean beyond complaints, though. So with staff from the Arts Commission, staff from the City Attorney's Office, obtaining private personal cell phone numbers, so that sort of behavior. So I think it really is kind of an extreme example that goes above and beyond compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance.
Right.
that to your point, that the Sunshine Ordinance is definitely, in my view, being exploited and kind of used as a tool to harass our staff. There it is. I just said it. So be that as it may, we still take the Sunshine Ordinance very seriously and compliance very seriously and our work with the task force very seriously. And we do our best, we do our best to comply.
I appreciate that. And I think that this process is probably going to be ongoing. And I genuinely hope that it leads to diminishing grounds for complaints.
That'd be wonderful.
Hopefully it's a bit of a sea change in that respect as well,
right. And to respond to you, sorry, you asked about the street artist program. I think that, there's hundreds of street artists that you never hear from, obviously, right? So again, I think it's this kind of outlier of, mainly one person, occasionally a second or a third person, and that history goes back decades with the program and with the specific staff, because we have one staff member who has been working for the Arts Commission in his position since the program's inception 42 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think that those relationships do go back a long, long time and are not representative of kind of the street artists, all of the street artists we serve, who of course come in and over the program over the years, or obviously, we run 7 different programs. The street artist is one of the smallest. So, of course, we're public servants. We serve the whole public as well as direct constituent work.
Is there you probably don't have any reason for, well, maybe you do, for maintaining sort of records of sort of overall sort of income of street artist vendors, or is there any awareness of how that trends in street artist viability, and is that changing?
I think that would be, I'm a huge lover of data, so I would love to have that. We do not currently ask them for that. So over the years, the program staff have made estimates, but I think it's more anecdotal estimates from what they're hearing when they're out on the street than an actual intake form where we require them to. I don't even know if we would be able to require them to provide that to us.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. As I was asking, I was thinking maybe that's not even
right. It is interesting, and we have a huge effort underway on the data front across the agency. We're kind of revamping all of our performance measures and looking at all the data we gather from the people we serve, so all of our grantees. So certainly that would be part of the larger effort.
Right. And the reason I ask is because I have a lot of respect for the Street Artist Vendor Program, and I think it's a wonderful part of San Francisco, and would be, sad for other reasons if that was, a program that was for some reason going away. But I just don't know enough about it to know if that's a trend that's occurring. And it has very little bearing on, of course, compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance, except to the extent that it's, the root cause of the conflict between, street artist vendors and the, Arts Commission.
Right.
Anyhow, specifically, have you... are there any, what is hightail? I don't know what hightail is.
I have never heard of that before.
Okay. And Granicus is the audiophile system.
It's an outside contractor who maintains the audio files for the city.
Okay, but then the audiophiles, they are the outside contractor who ultimately posts?
Actually, we have access to the program, and I post them myself.
Okay.
Using their programming.
Okay. And those are posted in either MP3 or WAV formats?
I believe I currently post them as WMVs or WMA, and somehow it also appears as an MP3.
Those are both really accessible formats. I mean, my limited knowledge of technology and computers, any program will open up a WMV or WMA.
Yes, I have investigated Ms. Tatesh's complaints when she said she could not open it, and I have gone online and opened them after she said she couldn't.
Okay, well, interesting to note. And I think that will inform our treatment of any complaints that come before the task force on that topic. I don't know what else there is to say about that at this point. Regarding the executive committee meeting minutes, 27 previous minutes left to post. Is there progress being made on that? I know that there's this, sort of December deadline established, but are you aware of the progress on that?
Yes, I checked in with our commission secretary recently, and she said that is still a realistic deadline. And obviously, we wish that was not the case and that there were not a backlog of that nature. It's obviously difficult when a backlog like that accumulates and you don't have additional resources. So,
right. Yeah, and again, we're not here for compliance on that issue alone, but we will be, so that's like something to watch out for. But I appreciate that efforts are being made in that regard. I thought there was another, I guess just generally, in terms, what guidance from us would help the Arts Commission? Where is there the rift in understanding? Is there a rift in understanding of what compliance means? And is it on specific topics? And how can we help the Arts Commission? What can we do, in your opinion?
Thank you for asking. I think that the guide to all city departments, like having one document that's, comprehensive yet succinct that we can all follow, so that we're all being held consistently to the same standard would be incredibly helpful. I know that's something that recently, a few years ago, we were audited by the Controller's Office, and they requested that of us. So now all of our programs have, kind of operating manuals for each program. But I think that would be very helpful. And obviously, staff, we do sometimes have new staff, and so it is incumbent upon us to provide training because compliance can be complicated, and certainly if you've never worked for a government entity before, that's all new. And so we have had our city attorney come regularly, and then our commission secretary did present at we meet as a full staff once a month, so it's a great opportunity for kind of issues that affect the whole department. And our commission secretary did present and just go over again all of the requirements for the posting of minutes and agendas. And then she is working on just an internal document as well to disseminate to staff, but certainly given your authority, a guide coming from this task force would be terrific.
Right.
Really helpful.
Okay. And that's as to responding to public records requests, and that I'm assuming, that guide would also include what minutes and agenda and audio recordings are, should be covered.
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, and you can see maybe, that's something that we're working on, and I hope that we can provide that. That's among the important work that we do here,
Definitely.
Member Washburn, do you have any further questions or comments?
I just wanted to say that I know the Arts Commission probably feels put upon by, or we're making us, you're the poster child for compliance or non-compliance with the ordinance. But it's, it's just a result of the matters that have been brought to us. So when we do develop the policies or the sort of the guidebook to how to comply, that it will go out to all the departments, and so all the departments will be clear about what the standards are.
That would be great. And I did talk to Mr. Young about it. I don't know if it's possible. It'd be something I'd be curious to discuss with the city attorney, but if there is some sort of a reasonableness standard or litmus test that you can dictate and we can comply with regarding what, because I think you were saying earlier, I can't remember the exact words you used, but sort of looking at the legitimacy of complaints or complaints that have merit, or some complaints having more merit than others. And so just some guidance on that, if it's possible. I know it's nuanced, but it would be helpful.
Yeah, it's tough, because in our seat, we don't want to be shutting down any complaints, and each complainant is entitled to their day in court, so to speak.
Right.
But I mean, we're increasingly aware of the circumstances around all of this, and to the extent that we can sort of tinker with the formula to make responding to complaints easier and to reduce the number of repeat complaints about the same issue.
Right.
That we can work on, I think.
Great.
And it's nice to meet you. I don't normally say that to department but I just feel like we're probably going to be in contact. And
it's a 6-month maternity leave.
Well, you'll be back, I'm sure. But let's keep the relationship cordial and two-way. And we're here to facilitate sunshine. If you're on the same board with that, there shouldn't be too many issues. And I think that's all that I really have to say. And I look forward to following up in December on compliance issues, and inevitably in the meantime on other things as well. But
sure. Thank you. I really appreciate your spirit and attitude, and I'm surprised myself. That's all I say. It was very nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Great. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Thanks.
And does that conclude that item for now? Are we
Most likely, I will continue this item to the next meeting of the Compliance Amendments Committee.
Great.
With follow-up on actual complaints and any additional issues that come up, and follow up on some of the recommendations that were made.
And if we could strive for the next compliance amendment to make, and I'm putting the onus on myself here, to take the next step on this guide, one step closer to something that we can send out to all departments and agencies. Again, I want to make sure that I review it too, that's a personal note. That's a personal note to myself. All right, personal note.
You have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. But I think that's really important, and thanks, Victor, for
Just let me know what
starting
you
on
need,
that.
and I will get any information you need to support the guide.
Okay. I believe that concludes item number 8 on our list.
Yes. Item number 9, request to reopen, reconsider file number 14026. I believe that this item was scheduled back in July of 2014. The complainant did not show up. The police department did show up. There was, in the order of determination, we directed the complainant to work with the police department to determine what other documents he needed, but that contact never occurred. The complainant recently found out that we concluded his file for non-appearance, and he's requesting that we reopen it for hearing. And we did make that allowance when we made the decision to conclude the matter, we did make an allowance that we would reopen it if he contacted us within 6 months.
Right. So, I mean, in my mind, we should reopen it. That was in our order of determination, which I reviewed. And, I don't know how to, but this is sort of, I assume he's not there the next time,
Yes,
he's
this
probably
is getting, on a bigger note, it's getting beyond this order of determination. He's making additional complaints.
okay.
Well, then he should file a new complaint.
Regarding different issues, but it's getting more complex and bigger with other departments involved. He's trying to get, I believe there is a result that he's looking for, but the task force really can't get involved with that.
Well, see, and that's something that surfaces again and again is, we can only ensure compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance and production of public records and access to public meetings and, access to notice for agendas or notice for, various public meetings. But so often people are seeking redress for tortious wrongs committed against them, where they need to file a complaint in Superior Court. They need to, take additional steps outside of our limited administrative jurisdiction. So I think that we're obligated to reopen this as he contacted within the 6-month period. But to the extent that this individual is asking for information that's outside of our jurisdiction, or to the extent which these things can be mediated before coming to us, I don't know.
Yes, I believe in this request to reopen, we should ensure that he actually contacts the police department and makes his request, because I believe that was part of their original order of determination, that they contact each other and he make a request for specific documents that he's still looking for.
Okay.
Right, and I took a look at the request too, and the 12 items in the request, and this. Responses to these, you could write, 15-page memos to to some of these questions, and there's such big questions, Some of them are very simple. Where can I find the salary info for deputy attorneys and their secretaries? That's, if that's located somewhere, that's a 2-word response, but, are there any ethical, moral obligations of deputy attorneys and other workers in the department? Tomes and have been written on ethical obligations of deputy city attorneys. And I don't see how, other than directing somebody in the direction of that information, how to respond to something like that. But I agree that we should reach out to this individual and, compel him to get in touch with the police department on this request, or in the alternative, talk to the police department and, have them respond to each item, and not that this is the definitive statement yet on how to respond to public records requests, but, produce the documents that are responsive, explain which documents are being withheld and why, and, explain which documents don't exist. And that will help us, when it comes before the full task force, adjudicate it very simply. If the police department can put together that document, that would be great to see.
It gets down to the same issue of they say they have complied and the complainant doesn't agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. But so often we see that, we've complied, but no supporting, no support.
Explanation of how complied.
You don't get that. This is what we've produced. This is what we're withholding because X, Y, Z, and this is what did not exist. It's like it's more than just we complied. Goodbye. But that's my take on it.
Maybe in the future for orders of determination, we should include a form for
Of how they comply.
Yeah, a form.
Sort of
You
like
need to do these things. We listed 3 things for the MTA.
Yes,
so-
I
Right.
believe that's the first time we did that.
Yeah, but
The one for the SFMTA where we told him how to respond.
Right.
But we could do that. But in this case, he was already heard before the full task force as an order of determination. He did not appear here, right? Was that it?
He
Yeah.
failed to appear, but it's still in the hands of the Clients and Amendments Committee.
Right, so
Oh, so this would not go back before the full task force?
maybe
This would
not.
come,
Maybe not. No, we have to, we
again, the
haven't had the
compliance and
hearing.
amendment, okay, I
We
see.
haven't had the hearing to determine whether there was compliance.
Okay. Well, I mean, put it back on our schedule, but, you know, if there's an opportunity to reach out to the police department and, you know, advise them on how to ensure compliance in the meantime, you know, that would help us.
Yes, I'll create a listing similar to the one for the SFMTA on listing how they responded to each question and with backup information.
Right, great. So do we have to make a motion to put that back on our schedule?
Yes, please.
I so move.
Seconded?
Okay, the motion was to reopen file number 14026.
There's no
I
members
don't
of...
believe there's any public in the room. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
Item 10, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
I have nothing further than what we've already stated. I mean, I made notes about, you know, things to follow up with here.
So we come back here in 2 months.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Motion to adjourn? Is that?
So move.
Seconded?
Meeting is adjourned.